Hi everyone, it's Mrs. Kardos and we're back with another math lesson. Today's topic is additive inverse. So make sure you take a minute to say that word to yourself, practice it, additive inverse. Grab your pencil, your paper, or your notes and let's get started. Our learning target for today we'll be able to determine if a given situation represents a sum of zero as demonstrated by the successful completion of some practice problems. So we're trying to decide if a situation will represent a sum of zero. So our key term today is additive inverse. What is it? Well, the additive inverse of a number is what you add to that number to create the sum of zero. So an important word today in our lesson is going to be zero. Sum is just another word for add. So if I add two numbers together, do they make zero? If they do, they're going to be an additive inverse. If they don't, they're not additive inverses. Another word that you will often hear used interchangeably with the word additive inverse is the word opposite. Opposite. So if two numbers are opposite, they are also additive inverses. Here's our example for today. 3 is the additive inverse of negative 3 because they are both the same distance from 0. So if I'm on negative 3, it's 3 hops from 0. And if I'm on 3, positive 3, it's also 3 hops from 0. So if I were to add negative 3 and 3 together, I would get 0. So if I were to add 3 and negative 3, I'm going to get 0. So one type of question you might see would be, what is the additive inverse of 8? Take a second, think it through. The answer to that question would be negative 8. They're the same distance from 0. Next example. Remember, write these things in your notes. What is the additive inverse of negative 19? What is the additive inverse of negative 19? And the answer would be positive 19. Okay, they're both the same distance from 0. They're both 19 hops from 0. And if I were to add negative 19 and 19, it equals 0. Well, what would be the additive inverse of 0? What is the additive inverse of 0? Well, 0 is its own additive inverse. So the additive inverse of 0 is just 0. And remember, 0 is neither positive nor negative. But if anybody ever asks you that tricky question, what's the opposite or the additive inverse of 0, you're just going to say 0. Okay, here's your opportunity to turn off the video or pause it actually and just take a minute and see if you can think through some of these questions and fill it out. And when you're done, come back to the video. All right, if we're given the number 12, the additive inverse would be negative 12. If we're given the number negative 25, the additive inverse would be positive 25. And remember, we don't really write the plus sign in the front, but you could. We just talked about the next one. The additive inverse of 0 would just be 0. The additive inverse of 100 would be negative 100. And the additive inverse of negative 7 would be positive 7. So if you got those right, you can give yourself a little check. If you didn't, please make sure you change your answers because I never want you to study the wrong answer. All right, take a minute, think each one of these through. You can pause the video and come back when you have your answers completed. So the first situation, I don't really see a number, I just see a variable, but that's okay because I can tell if I did substitute any number in there for x, that no matter what I put in there for x, my answer is always going to be 0 because x and negative x would be opposites or additive inverses. So the sum of 7 and negative 7 would be 0. The sum of negative 5 and 5 would be 0. Are you seeing the pattern here? The sum of 25 and negative 25 would be 0, and the sum of negative 8 and 8 would also be 0. So let's think about it in an application sort of way, as in real life type situations. Jill baked 30 muffins for her class party. At the party, 30 muffins were eaten. And the directions are asking me, does this represent a sum of 0? So that means when I add them together, am I going to get 0? Well, if she baked 30 muffins, that would be positive. But if they ate the 30 muffins, that would be negative. So yes, we do wind up with a sum of 0. So the answer to this question is yes, it does. Now in this, you notice the way I wrote it, the parentheses here, the plus and the negative, the parentheses are just to separate those two. So next question, think it through. A plant grew 10 inches. A year later, someone trimmed 6 inches off the plant. Would that represent a sum of 0? Well, if it grew 10 inches, that would be positive. If someone trimmed off 6 inches, that would be negative. So is that going to make a sum of 0? No, that's not going to equal 0. Next situation. Luis makes 12 pieces of pottery and he sells every piece he made. So 12 positive, but then he sold them. So does he wind up right back where he started with no pottery at all? Yes, he does. It does equal 0. This situation does represent a sum of 0. Next situation. Jackson spent $5 at the movies and then he spent $5 more at the bookstore. Well, he spent $5. So he spent that money, spent it. So that's going to be negative because he doesn't have that money anymore. And then he spent $5 more. Uh-oh. Is this situation going to equal 0? Is he right back where he started from? No, he's not at 0. As a matter of fact, he has $10 less than he used to. So, no. Ooh, Mrs. Kardos deposits $300 in her checking account. I'm rich. And the next day, she withdraws $300 from her checking account. Does this situation represent a sum of 0? Take a minute, think it through. Okay, some of our keywords in this instance, this situation, are deposit and withdrawals. So if I deposit $300, we usually consider that to be positive. And then if I take that out of the bank, we usually consider that to be negative. So am I going to wind up right back where I started with? You betcha. I am no richer than I was before. So yes, this does represent a situation of 0. I'm going to give you a minute. You can pause the video, think through each one of these scenarios, and see if you can decide, does it represent a sum of 0 or not? This would be your check for understanding. All right, hopefully you paused the video and you were able to think through each one of these. So the first one says a banana and a peach both cost 50 cents. You should have said, no, that's not going to make 0. Francie caught the ball 3 times and Francie missed the ball 3 times. Well, if she caught it, that would represent a positive 3. If she missed it, that would represent a negative 3. So yes, that would represent 0. Luce learns 5 new math facts, but then forgets 5 old math facts. Learning and forgetting, yes, those are kind of opposite actions from each other. So yes, that would equal 0. And the last one, a lemonade stand's income is triple the amount of the expenses to run it. I don't see anything in there that's really opposite of one another, so we're going to say no, that is not going to represent a situation of 0. All right, we're back at our learning target. So let's see if we did what we were supposed to today. We're going to be able to determine if a given situation represents a sum of 0. I would say we practiced that quite a bit. So yeah, we definitely accomplished what we set out to. And just a quick quote to remind you and take you on your way to motivate you through the rest of the day. Great things come from hard work and no excuses. And that quote is attributable to Kobe Bryant. You guys have a great day. See you later. Bye.